Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. We're just removing the injectors on this 1KD FTV and I've got some really important information for you. It's information I've shared before, but some people may have missed it, so listen very carefully please. This is relevant for anybody that's working on a common rail diesel. So we're here together doing this set of injectors, and of course he's going to look really awkward because I'm right in his way. With the camera here, and you know, so he's got to do things different, whatever. So it's going to look all unco, left-handed, right-handed, all that. But so don't worry about that. That's all my fault. It's about compression tests, and if you need to do a compression test or not. Some people missed it, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background. We've been doing these for a few years now, and many years ago, there was a supposedly what we were led to believe diesel specialist business. You know, the B word, we're not going to bother going there. B for bother, we're not going to bother going there. I'd rather bail out on those sorts of things and stick to the positive things. Because, you know, we had a lot of problems with not brand new genuine injectors, right? Not brand new genuine injectors, because we used to have those as an option. We never pushed them, we never tried to sell them, that they were an option, which we deleted many years ago. We had enough problems that were obviously in contact, sort of saying, well, you know, what, and we got them replaced, this set, that set. It was just, it wasn't worth it, right? But there was also a lot of things that got introduced, like, oh, but what are the compressions like? You know how a lot of companies like to, the blame game, they need to pin the blame on something else. So, oh, but what's this like, and what's this, and show me this, and show me that. So, obviously, it was pretty difficult to do a compression test because you had to remove the glow plugs, which were down here next to the EJ cooler. They can get stuck. The alloy of the, you know, a head can come out with them. So we didn't like doing that. So then what I did was I had a dummy injector manufactured. I contacted Kaon and they made like an injector, right? These what we call dummy injectors, and you can still get those from Kaon. And I'm not saying they're useless, but for many years it was my belief that this is imperative and we need to do this as part of the job. Okay, so that was my belief, and we're doing a compression test on every job. And then what happened sometime afterwards, some of the results from the compression test were quite educational for myself, and I've shared that with you, which is why you go ahead and subscribe, turn the bell on, watch the injector information playlist, because it's all old info and we're not really going to talk about it too much. So if you didn't see it back then years ago, you probably missed it. And that was things like we saw patterns with compression tests and valve clearance checks with vehicles, and one of them was, you know, we're not going to go on about, you know, the catch can, you know, we're not going to talk about that too much, but where we found vehicles at fairly low Ks that had lower compressions, or, you know, weird things going on like that, or less valve clearance, you know, because the dry soot wearing away at the valve seats, because the catch cans, they're taking the oil out, you know. Again, I'm not saying that's what it's there for. The oil's not there to lubricate things, but it would seem the results are that's what it does, because the dry ones are sometimes, you know, there's a bit of a pattern there. I could be wrong, but that's the pattern we've seen. Back onto the topic though, compression test was part of that, because it wasn't just valve clearances, it was also compressions where we went, so what was this one, only 380 or 390 PSI, right? You know, as opposed to a 4 or 410, and 390 is not bad. And then there's 370s, and what's going on here? And it's only done 120,000 Ks. Oh, but it's had a catch can since new. Oh, you know, patterns like that, right? So anyway, we're doing all these compression tests. We learned a heap of things from it, and one of the key things we learned was it's a waste of time, and this is the reasons why. Because all it takes, see what we're doing here, we're removing the injectors from the engine, right? So the EJAR's off, even if that comes off clean and none of the soot breaks away and falls into number 4 port. Even if that doesn't happen, and if it does happen, that's a problem. But even if it doesn't happen, when we lift these injectors out, all it takes is a little bit of that soot. You know, there's carbon in the combustion, the exhaust gas recirculation. This is a standard 1KD with dirty, filthy exhaust gas recirculation. So what that means is, there's some soot, some black carbon soot business in the combustion. It gets around those injector nozzles up at the tips there, right? Up the top of the middle of the, you know, right up the top of the middle of the combustion. And when you lift those injectors out, which we're going to do soon, we may be able to demonstrate, depends if I talk long enough. All it takes is a tiny little bit of black soot to fall down that hole of that injector port. To then, therefore, when you crank it over, it just blows across to the valve. Remember, it's oily, sticky, sooty stuff. It gets stuck under the valve, and it can easily manipulate those readings so they're no longer accurate. Now, if you had a perfectly clean new engine, of course, you can do a compression test and it'll be accurate. as long as you're using quality tools. And what we were doing, as you know, using 4 compression test tools. So if we got any variants, we could switch around tools. Okay, no, 3 are good, there's something wrong with that one, ditch that one, get a new one, get it repaired, whatever the case may be, which didn't really happen other than some, again, soot sticking under the valves, letting the pressure out, so they did need regular cleaning. So we've done hundreds of compression tests, and what we learnt was it's a waste of time, because exactly what I just explained, little bits of soot from injectors or from when you take off that and the stuff crumbles and it falls down and it could get to number 4. Look, the thing is, you crank it over, it sucks air, right? So it could end up at number 3, number 2, even number 1. You get uneven readings. Sometimes what happens is when you pull the number 4 injector out, the one at the back here, so it's like this, he's working on number 1 now, number 2, number 3, number 4's at the back. You pull out number 4, see that oil that's running down the injector? I don't know if you noticed, but basically there's more oil around the head at the front here, sorry, at the back than there is at the front. He's done the front. And if you're not sort of quick getting the injector out, pretty soon you want to get a rag. And this is another good reason to, this vehicle's been parked here since the day before. Preparation, what we do, we wash it down, we make sure it's all dry. We've been going through all this in videos. There's maximum detail, you know, is in the VIP group after you get that injector kit. But look, the rear injector there, my point I'm trying to make is, if the engine oil's hot or it hasn't been left to sit long enough, or even, we've got more time here. So once he pulls out number 4, what he should be doing is getting a rag and just sticking it around his finger and giving it a really quick wipe before the oil runs down, if we were going to worry about doing a compression test, right? But, you know, we do that anyway sometimes, depending what it looks like. So he's working on number 3 now. Let's see if he, because now he thinks I'm telling him what to do. So what he might do, he might do it because it's the right thing to do, or he might go, that stuff here, mate, I'm not doing it just because you said so, because we like to play these sorts of games. So let's see what happens. So the point is, oil can run down number 4 port, and therefore what does oil do? It increases compression. So sometimes what you'll see is, oh, I've got 420, 430 PSI on number 4, that's awesome. And by the time you get to the front, it's got 370 and you're going, oh, there's something wrong with this engine. So what it does, it creates a lot of confusion, okay? It can make a good engine look bad. It can also make, they also can make a engine that's absolute rubbish look okay. So let's go to the other end of the scale. We've had some engines where people didn't watch our videos, they don't change their injectors and their seats, and they don't check their oil pickups, they missed all that, and they end up with a blocked oil pickup, and therefore the engine's getting starved of oil and it does damage. And oh, he's going to do it. Look at that. Yeah, just a quick wipe in there, you know. And it just, because a lot of oil pulls around that port. That's what you would need to do really quickly if you were going to have any hope of doing a compression test. Good enough for now, mate. That'll do. We're not doing a compression test. Whatever. I was just stirring you up, trying to get you to do that. Anyway, so thanks for that. Basically, do you get my point? So we've had engines, there's at least a couple of engines where, you know, this has happened with a blocked oil pickup. We don't even bother with a compression test on those anymore, because we're just wasting time and your money. I'm going to give you some other bonus info towards the end, so sit tight. Basically, if I do a compression test on your vehicle, I'm wasting my time and your money. I'm not into wasting anybody's time or money. I give you accurate information for correct diagnosis and exactly what you need to do, and it's going to save everybody, already has saved people millions, and it's going to save millions more over the next decades. Hopefully we can get to the billions, since money's not worth that much anymore, since they doubled the amount of it on the planet in the last 2 years. We should be able to save people billions over the next 10 years. So if you haven't already, subscribe, turn the bell on. Now, this is relevant for any common rail diesel, anyone that's going, oh, I'm going to do a compression test. Even if you pull the glow plugs out, because all those bits of carbon and that can fall in and get under the valves and manipulate that test. So if you find, so some people are saying, but what if you find 0 or 100 PSI? That's right, we'll get to that in a minute. But let me just finish by saying, we've had some engines, blocked oil pickups and all that, and we're going, oh, but it's still running and it's a bit of a tap, tap, tap. Is that just an injector? And sometimes it is difficult to tell the difference between, I've had heaps of vehicles come in where other people saw it was an engine and I've put injectors in and it solved the problem. That happens most of the time. But sometimes you get that different tap and you know, look, it's oil starvation, it's damaged the engine components and it's all over. Too late, right? But what happens, sometimes it's hard to tell. So on those few that I've had that it's hard to tell, and we've done all the compression tests and all the checks that we can possibly do, and the compression checks come back okay, oh, we've got 380, we've got 390, we've got 400, that's all within about 20 PSI. They're allowed to be, by the book, within 70 PSI. So you could have a 350 and a 420 and everything's okay. So there's the book and there's what I tell you is reality with these engines. And I can tell you they're usually within 10 psi of each other. And if you've got a 30 psi difference, you've got something funny going on, okay? But you do the compression test, you could end up confused because you could easily get 30 or 40 psi difference because of what we just explained and discussed once again. So waste of time checking it. Basically, if you think you've got a cracked piston, we've demonstrated in a number of videos. Don't waste your time, with the engine running, taking the cap off. If there's nothing wrong with how your engine runs, don't take the cap off and go, oh, is this normal? And put your hand there and it's going on your hand and you go, oh no, I've got too much blow-by, whatever. Don't worry about that. If the engine is running fine, the engine's running fine. Now, when the engine's rocking around crazy like it's got a misfire, well, it could be that. It could be the injector. It could be the wiring, these plugs and wiring if you're not careful. It could be the injector driver, but it's probably not going to be the injector driver because we've never seen a misfire from an injector driver before. They fail and the engines don't start, right, is what happens there. See, look at this bonus info. Now, what else was I going to tell you? That's a good question. See, so much info, and you just got to subscribe and turn the bell on if you want to catch it on the next video. The point is, what else is the point? It's a waste of time, right? So we covered that. It's a waste of time. It's not accurate. It can make a good engine look bad and a bad engine look good. So it's a waste of time. Do we really need to talk about anything else? I think that's about it. Any engine, same thing, whether it's through the glow plugs. Petrol engine probably a bit different because spark plugs, it's a lot cleaner there, if you know what I mean. And of course, once you carefully take them out, you crank over the engine first and it blows all the debris out. In case anybody didn't know, that's what you do. With these, you start cranking it over, all the oil will start falling into the ports and fill your engine with oil, and you're going to get some really good compressions, don't you worry. So understand what's going on. I don't know what else I was going to tell you at the end. I've forgotten. It doesn't matter. The important message is we no longer do the compression test. If you've got a noisy engine, I don't even need to do a compression test. I'll use my ears and my experience to work out what's going on with your engine to the best of my ability. It's almost impossible to do it in a video, so you need to bring it to me or one of our recommended 4Before Diesel Workshop partners, where hopefully there is, or other places we can come up with that have got people that actually understand what's going on. In the VIP group, there's probably more people in there that can diagnose a problem with an engine than there is in a lot of workshops. So as I was talking about with that oil cap, right? So if the engine's running fine, you don't take it off. If you've got a misfire, it could be the injectors if they're old and flogged. It could be the wires damaged if someone was a bit too rough because they're a diesel mechanic. I'm not picking on the diesel mechanics, but it's a bit different, They're diesel fitter, there's a big heavy duty, tractors and trucks and whatever. These are little delicate engines in motor vehicles, okay? So it's a different thing. You need to be small wires, gentle, on an old diesel mechanical fit, there's no wire, you know what I mean? Hope you get my drift. So you need to be careful. It's happened a number of times where these heavy duty, heavy handed people have damaged the plugs. So the easiest way to work that out, if it is a damaged plug or wire, which we're going off topic now, but bonus info, is you can unplug the you don't need a scan tool. You can carefully unplug the injectors, just release the clip without unplugging it all the way. You can start the engine, and what you do, you just slide the plugs, these plugs, you just, while the engine's running, you just gently slide it back, and the one that doesn't make a difference is the cylinder you've got a problem with, but it doesn't tell you still if it's the injector or the engine. It tells you which one it is. That's how you tell which cylinder it is without even opening your engine, without even going to a vehicle technician, without even going to Toyota or anyone. You can, without a scan tool, you can work out which cylinder is failing by using these plugs, right there in front of you. Has a light bulb come on for some people. Right, now how do you know if it's a cracked piston or whether it's injector? It's as simple as unscrewing that oil cap. If it's running like a misfire, rocking around crazy, right? Particularly if it's puffing out some smoke, it may or may not be doing that. If you were driving and you had a loss of power and there was a puff of smoke that went out the back and then it's rocking like that, there's a good chance you may have cracked a piston. So to diagnose that, then that's when it's time to take that oil cap off, right? Unscrew the oil cap carefully, don't drop it down in the fan and all the working part. Gently just hold it like that, gently. You've seen me do it in videos, it's probably called don't do this, stop doing this, or how to diagnose a cracked piston or something like that. I'm not going to include it in this video because we've done it a number of times. Use the search function, the little magnifying glass, search our channel, watch our information. It's the accurate, good information. I'm sure you know it by now. That's why you're about to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn the bell on if you haven't. And when it goes choof, 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 that's the speed of the engine every time one cylinder comes around. Not number one, it could be 2, 3, or 4. Every time 1 in 4 comes around at idle, chuff, 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 chuff. Do you want me to do it again? Like that, and you'll see that, chuff, chuff. That is the crack in your piston. No further diagnosis needed. It doesn't go into a workshop. They don't need to say, oh, we need to do a compression test. We need to strip it down. Look, we need to evaluate. It's going to cost you hundreds of thousands. We're going to give your car back to you in bits and pieces after we find it. And your bill's going to be $600, $800, $1,200 or $2,000. None of that needs to happen. See what I said at the start of the video? I'm going to save us all billions, because if you all listen, there's millions of people around the world. Heaps of people have got engines, diesels, whatever the case may be. So if you listen to me, you save billions, you know, cumulatively together. And if you don't, well, good luck. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked it. This one should get smashed on the likes, and subscribe, turn the bell on. There's better videos coming. See ya.